Hello guys, today's another 30 knot wind day, so no fishing. So I figured I'd do another one of my windy days, too windy to fish fishing tips, cheap version. Like to go over one of the systems that I use, which is the live bait wells. I've gone through quite a bit of the different varieties there, trying to narrow it down, and fortunately I came up with a system that is very effective, very efficient, and cheap. So it's excellent parameters, it works very well, and it doesn't cost very much. So I'll kind of go over that in a bit. I've got, from the extreme setups, the kind of a home-built, actually circulating live well, where I've got like a Tsunami 500-gallon pump in the inside there, a pickup that fits in the scupper hole with a self-priming head on it. So I basically paddle, it pushes the water up, and then the pump is able to pull water on its own, circulates the water through the tank, and then out the back I've got a couple of adjustable exit tubes so I can adjust the height and how much water I'm letting out. Works really well. Negatives is that it was expensive to build, a couple $100 in parts. It is kind of not the most efficient because you need a big battery pack to run them, and anything that runs on batteries in salt water is just not good, and it's a bit complicated in regards to having to set it up each time, strap it down, get the battery pack set up, hook it up for the switches and so forth, and then outside of that it's just too much hassle, so I actually stopped using it. Then on the flip side, we've got the old standard flow troll, Frayville flow troll. These work totally fine for some applications. What my negatives towards these is they don't hold enough capacity, not enough volume. There is a larger version of, but I don't even consider that one large enough for most of the baits or enough baits. Secondarily is that when they're sitting in the water and you just have them just floating there, they don't actually sit underneath the water, so you're really only getting about a half or so, and then as soon as you start moving at all, it lifts it up and you're maybe only getting a third of the volume in the water, which is not good for the baits. The other thing that's not, and it's probably more of a killer for me, is that the drag that these cause, it's just not effective to tow them around when you're going from point A to point B. It's just too much drag, so you end up having to pull it out of the water, putting it on the kayak somewhere, paddling, and then putting it back in. So a bit of a hassle. A lot of people, you can actually do is get the little bubble boxes, just a little bubbler, which works fine for some applications. But again, it's just some of our baits are kind of sensitive and they need the constant flow of fresh water, fresh oxygenated water in order to survive. Some baits that are hardy you could probably get away with, the pinfish, probably shrimp, sometimes mullet, but too many of the baits that I'm using require a lot of the fresh water, so these don't quite keep up with it. So I've kind of come up with a good system, like I was saying, and I'm actually going to build one for you real quickly so you can see how easy it is. 5-gallon bucket, and I've got the Home Depot style here, the proud orange ones. $4, I think $5 maybe at Home Depot there. These buckets you can pick up free all up and down the Atlantic side mangroves, because basically anything that floats get pushed in those mangroves and they get stuck there. So if you cruise the mangroves, you'll find buckets of all shapes and sizes. Just get a 5-gallon bucket one and you're good to go. Tools wise, you just need a drill with a 1/4-inch drill bit. You can also use a screwdriver and just push your way through, or a knife, 38 caliber maybe, or a 22, and just shoot a hole would work fine. But all you got to do is basically get a spot, okay, and that's basically it. You're done. The whole aspect of it is finished. You want to make a hole probably roughly a third of the way down, so 2/3 will be with water and 1/3 will be open there. What that is just going to be a weep hole, basically a pee hole. So when the water gets up to a certain level above that, it's going to start draining out of that hole there. So main capacity will be 2/3 of it there. So the way that basically the system works is you fill it full of water. Another mangrove find. I just get a cheap plastic bucket, whatever. I cut the top off. The best ones are like the Folgers or Maxwell House coffee, plastic coffee ones that they come with, because they have the wide mouth and they have a built-in handle. Those work really well, but I just use whatever I can find. And this basically, you can just scoop the water out, you fill it up until it gets to the top, it'll start weeping out and it's done. Go out, get your bait, throw the bait inside there, and then basically you're pretty much set there. The reason why the 5-gallon buckets just by themselves are not good is because even though there's more volume, eventually that oxygen will run out and your bait is going to basically starve of oxygen and die, suffocate. So you need to kind of be able to circulate the water, and that's what the weep hole does. Is once you've got the bait in there, you can start doing is just get a couple scoops of water, fill it up. These are about 1 gallon, and this is probably 2 gallons, so a couple scoops gets it filled to the top. And then it'll slowly just pee out that hole, and it'll just slowly drain out that drain hole side there. Then once that drains all the way down, throw a couple more scoops in there, and that just constantly keeps a flow of water going through there. Okay. Another quick addition, and which is the only money addition I did, is getting one of these 5-gallon lids with the bait hole built into it. I think I paid $6 off of eBay, so pretty cheap. What you do need to have a lid on it. One basically is primarily because your baits can jump out. Mults especially, the blue runners, even your shrimp will jump out. Especially when you're pouring the water out, they'll go towards the flow and you'll see them jumping when you start doing that. Mullet will just see the sky and they'll just constantly be jumping. So you got to have a kind of a lid on top of it. And then having that smaller insert makes it more effective to be able to dump the water in, as well as getting your baits without having to try to take off this whole lid each time, because the stock ones get slammed on there and they're all hard to get on and off. You could probably make one yourself, just cut a hole and then a couple zip ties and make a flap, but otherwise $5-6 is all it is. And that's the lid for you. And then basically the way I do it is I fill the water up, go out, cast nets and pilchards or bait or whatever, throw them in there. I spend a little bit more time in the beginning of constantly filling it with water to flush as much of the impurities out of the water. Some of the baits that start shedding their scales right away, so you want those flushed out as soon as possible so it doesn't clog the water and clog the gills and suffocate them. So at the beginning I might do it a few more times more than often, but once you got it basically clean and they're settled in there, you can basically cut back on how much water. You just got to kind of gauge it. What I do is I'll go make my few casts, 15 minutes or whatever, done fishing a spot, a couple scoops, then I'll paddle on to the next spot, maybe dump another couple, fish some more, and just kind of do a little routine right there. Once you've got that water cycled, it's pretty fresh water, there's enough volume that it lasts a while, and you don't have to constantly be doing over and over so often there. My uses of testing it is I can basically keep, I take about 2 dozen pilchards out to the reef. I could generally fish all day, and then by the time I get back to the dock, they're still alive, or not the full 2 dozen, but whatever I've got left are still alive. So pilchards are not the most hardiest of baits, but so I know that the system is fairly effective in that regards. Capacities, like I said, is I'll do 2 dozen normal sized pilchards, no problem. When I do sail fishing, I might only take 6, 8, maybe 10 of the larger size 5-inch pilchards, and that's all that I'll keep in there because I want them to be very frisky, very fresh. So I don't want to jam a lot of baits in there, and I'll just keep those basic few in there. Blue runners is another one I keep in there, and I'll probably keep 4 or 5 of the smaller ones, the 6-inch to 7-inch, 8-inch size. And then if I'm going to go after something big, I might take 2 of the 12-inch, 10 to 12-inch, 2, maybe 3 of them, and that'll work fine there. Same thing with the mullet size. You can go pretty large on those because they're pretty hardy baits and keep them alive without a problem there. And that's basically it. Like I said, I've got a couple rigs that way. Use them all the time. Works pretty well. The good thing about it is there's no strapping you down necessary. You just throw them in the back. The water will hold them down. They fall overboard. Who cares? They float. At the end of the day, just dump out the water and your whatever leftovers bait there. Throw your bucket, throw your cast net. What I do is I'll take all my used lures, lines, anything metal, my tools, my knife, bait knife, and so forth. I'll throw them in this bucket. Then when I get home, I just take the bucket out to my porch, fresh water, spray the whole thing, and everything's done at one time, and it makes it convenient carrying stuff. So that's my windy day tip for the day. Have a good one.